Hello there everybody and welcome back to another episode of How to Play. Today we are going to be learning the basics on how to play Chaac. And as always, before we dive into specifically what you should be trying to do as Chaac, let's quickly talk about his abilities. First up, his first ability is a giant circle. He throws it out, and at the place that this circle lands, a hammer appears on the ground. Pay attention to that hammer. It's important for these next couple of abilities. His 1 also scales with 60% physical power. Next we move on to his 2. His 2, he throws his axe around him and it does major damage as well. This ability scales with 70% scaling, and what's special about this ability is if you have that hammer on the floor, so if you've used your first ability before this ability, then you're going to teleport to that hammer and then do your swirling axe attack at that location instead. Next we have his third ability, which is his heal. This heal ticks 12 times and has 15% physical scaling on each tick. This is just a heal, but if you have that hammer thrown out when you cast this heal, it creates both a circle around you and around that hammer that slows all targets within a given range. Now, finally, we move on to his ultimate. Chaac is going to rise up into the air. After a second or two, he slams down, knocks up all enemies briefly, and this ability silences and scales with 120% scaling. Now, Chaac is an early game god. He does all of his work in the early game. He falls off real hard into the mid to late game. If you get ahead, he can snowball really well, but he does the most damage and he has the most impact early. That's because his first and second ability have really high base damage and really high scaling. So once you get your boots online, you're going to be packing a whopping punch. You pair that with a Sunder, which I really recommend that you do on this guy, then you can really chunk down foes incredibly fast in the early game. Now, I hinted at this a couple seconds ago, but what are you trying to do as Chaac? You are trying to bully everyone early game. Again, you hit really hard early. Early game is your strength. You want to use that slow, you want to use your high scaling, and you want to beat the living crap out of everyone and everything early. Now, the build that I have chosen to help facilitate this has an item that I've recently been tampering with, and it's actually not a bad item. And basically, I'm going to try and put up my build on screen right now. So as you can see, I start with Bluestone and Boots 1 and then a couple of each, the multi-potion and the health potion. This gives me good sustain and really high poke damage early, again facilitating that early game. You'd be amazed how much impact Bluestone Pendant can have if you give it a chance. Then I go and finish Warrior Tabi. Then I go into Masamune. This is the item that I was talking about. It's a little bit of an odd choice, but Masamune recently got changed, so now it gives still the flat 50 power, but now you get a buff so that based off of how many people are around you, you get some of both protections. This item, if you can finish it off real quick, is incredibly strong because Masamune again gives a protection buff now, and every little bit of protection you get early game goes the extra mile because everyone else is still going to be building into a lot of power. So you're going to be tanky by comparison, and since you have incredibly high scaling, all of your abilities are going to hit that much harder. Next, I go and I build a physical protection item and then a magical protection item. This is up to you at this point. I usually almost always go Breastplate of Valor on Chaac because the 20% CDR that item gives is very strong for this kit. Then for the magical, if they have a healer, I go Pestilence. If they have a lot of magical like zoning abilities, then I'll go into the Heart Word. Otherwise, it's more or less just a flex pick. Then I'll go into Titan's Bane because at this point, in order to keep chunking them down, you're going to need 33% pen. It goes a long way on this guy. And then for your last item, when you end up selling bluestone, it's another flex pick. Some items that have been real fun on Chaac have been shield or regrowth for the sprint on the heal. It's really fun to use, not the most recommended item, I'd say that much. Or you can go into Spirit's Robe if they have a lot of CC. Again, the options are really open for you for that last item pick. So, to quickly summarize, you want to be a bully in the early game, pick up the Sunder to facilitate your damage, make sure you're picking up Masamune as it is one of your better item choices on this god, and then in the late game, your role is going to transition into an alt bot. You want to use that big area of effect ultimate to silence as many people as you can, and you want to lead your team and protect them in order to win the match. And that is where I'm going to leave this episode of How to Play. If you enjoyed watching today, please leave a like on the video. If you want to see more from me, subscribe to the channel. And remember, if there's ever any god or anything that you want to see me do, leave it down in the comments section down below. And until next time, guys, this is Keltick the Casual, signing off.